It's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and recently I've built a kind of leaf corral slash giant compost bin, and I thought I'd do a video on how I put that together. I've taken some footage at various stages of the construction of this. I'm just going to speak about it generally, and then I'm going to use some of that footage and narrate it and just show you how it went together in the bits and pieces of footage that I took. So what am I talking about here? Let's have a look. So I built this out of trees for my property. You got a lot of trees and sometimes they fall down, and every once in a while I got enough logs to do a project with, and I wanted to do a sort of log cabin style construction where you got notches that sort of fit together like that. But there's lots of videos on how to do this precisely, but there's a kind of quickie, lazy, fast way to do it with a chainsaw, and that's what I did here, where you don't cut perfect notches, you sort of just cut rectangular notches, and you just stick them together, and you just stuff moss in between them, and you use your chainsaw to even out the gaps, and you stuff moss. And the idea is that at some point, I've been throwing some weeds and stuff in here, but at some point I'm going to throw grass clippings and seaweed and horse manure, whatever I can get, composty type stuff. And then usually this time of year, people start bagging up their leaves, and I gather them in my car. And I've got all these bags of leaves. And what I decided is to build this, and I'll dump all those bags of leaves in here, and then put a couple logs. I'll get lots of extra logs, right? Put those on top to just weight everything down, and the compost underneath should cook. I don't know, at some point it's going to get too cold and everything will shut down, but the compost underneath should stay warm enough, especially now that I've insulated everything with this moss, and it should cook to some extent. And underneath all the leaves, next spring I'll have some decent compost to use, but I'll still have all those leaves to use in my garden, because in my garden here every single bed is mulched with leaves, and I need them all season long, right? So in the fall I gather leaves, and then in the spring and summer, as I need leaves for mulch, I use them. Basically, you've got a log going this way, right? You got a log going this way, and then you fit another log on top by cutting a notch out like that, rectangular notch. You could use a handsaw, you could use an axe. I used a chainsaw because it's fast. You fit them together, and you'd be surprised how easy it is to get them to fit together just using the chainsaw. So I put the bottom tier together, and I just built it up. What's important is that when you're starting off, each tier that's perpendicular has to be half a log higher than the other. See how, like, basically we've got half a log here, half a log here. See how this fits in at half log high? But you notch the underside of the log and put it facing down so that rain will roll off, and it'll just rot much more slowly because it naturally sheds rain. This is all going to rot out in 10-20 years, but it doesn't really matter. This took about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 hours in total to put together, and that includes cutting the trees down. Like I'm adding it all in, like let's say half a day. I didn't do it all in one day, but if I was to quantify, I just did it in dribs and drabs after work. Anyway, I got some footage here. I'm going to show you some of how I did some of these notches and stuff like that, and a few little tricks. Let's have a look at all that.